Have you been thinking about buying a property at an auction? Or have you heard about how you could buy a property at an auction for below the market price? I'm going to give you some insider information about how the auctions work. So if you've always been curious about how auctions work, well, this one's for you. And if you are interested in more information about the real estate industry, please make sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. So that way I can help you learn more about the industry and give you insider information like this. Now let's get into the video. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me again. Now, throughout my years as an estate agent, I often get asked the question about whether it is a good idea to buy at an auction. A lot of people are under the impression that you can buy a property under market value at an auction, and some even tell me that they can resell the property and make huge profits on the sale. Now, this sounds great on paper, but there are so many factors to take in before even going to an auction. And I'll be giving you my 5 tips to remember before going to buy at an auction. So the first thing that you need to do before going to an auction is make sure that you can finance whatever you're going to be bidding on a property. You need to make sure that you can finance the full purchase price, because at some auctions you are given a very limited time to secure that amount. And if you don't secure the full purchase price within the time that they give you, you can incur some very high penalties and interest. You also need to factor in the arrear rates and the arrear levies on the property. This gets added to the purchase price that you'll also be liable for at the fall of the hammer. And another factor that you have to consider is the sheriff's commission that they add on to the bid. So these are things that you need to calculate before going in and making a bid on a property. You need to also make sure that you read the conditions of the sale agreement before going to make a bid. It's very important for you to understand what you are actually getting into once you make a bid and you win. You need to understand all the costs that you're going to be liable for, and you need to find out if there's going to be any interest that they're going to be adding after you win the bid. A common example of this is that when you win the bid, they will charge you an interest on the purchase price until the property is registered into your name, and this you'll be liable for on a monthly basis. My third tip is to make sure that you do some research before going to the auction, because when you buy a property at an auction, you're buying the property as is. So this means that whatever condition the property is, whatever defects there are, you are taking it on yourself. This includes there being a tenant in the house or even the owner in the property. And if they don't voluntarily leave the property, that means that you'll have to do an eviction, and all of this will be at your cost. So you really need to do some research before you go and buy the property. And sometimes you won't even have access into the property, so you won't know what the condition of the house is. So it's very important that you need to factor in that there may be some renovations that need to be done on the house first. So it is important that you do your research to determine what the market value of the property actually is. My 4th tip is to arrive early at the auction. This will give you time to hear the terms and conditions of the sale agreement and make sure they correspond with what was given to you in the actual written agreement. It's also important to go to an auction a few times first. This will give you a feel for what happens at the auction, the bidding process, what happens when someone wins the bid, what's required of you. It just gives you a lot of insight as to how it happens. So it's very important to try to get some experience as to how it happens so that you stay cool and calm when making a decision. My final tip is be prepared to seal the deal, because once you win a bid at an auction, there is no turning back. So before you go to an auction, you're usually required to put down a deposit to secure your bidding number. With that bidding number, you use that to buy the property. So once you win the bid, you're bound to that agreement. There's no turning back. If you decide to cancel that agreement, you'll lose your deposit and you'll be liable for penalties and legal costs. And some auctioneers will even ban you from coming back until you settle all their legal costs. Alright, so those are my main tips for anybody looking at buying at an auction. And I'm sure you'll know that auctions are extremely high risk, but they come with high rewards if done correctly, and can be a very good place to go to find properties, especially if you're an investor looking to grow your portfolio. I've dealt with quite a lot of clients who've made millions at auctions, and they have built up incredible property portfolios as well. But at the same time, I've also seen clients who've made bad purchases, who've lost money at the auction, or didn't factor in additional costs at the auction, and the property ended up costing them more than the market value of the property they bought. Or the ones who didn't do their research ended up buying a property that needed renovations, which they didn't budget for, and then they had to end up reselling the property for a loss. So as long as you follow these tips, buying at an auction won't become a nightmare for you. So that's a wrap for this video. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like this video and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one.